Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan Lugo. Thanks so much for tuning in here on Wednesday, March 13th. It is the NFL New League Year Day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. The new league year starts in the NFL. We're going to talk about a running back the Jaguars brought back yesterday, Calvin Ridley, of course, and we'll take a look at what the Jaguars have done so far in free agency, talk about it a little bit. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. You can also check out genjag.com/shop, pick up some new Duval gear, like the hat I'm wearing right now. Really appreciate y'all. So, before we get into the hottest topic in Duval, the Jaguars are re-signing running back DErnest Johnson. Johnson is a core special teamer, which is very important. Make no mistake about it. Special teams is huge, and the Jaguars value special teams more than a lot of other teams do, especially when it comes to signing core special teamers, when it comes to investing in the kick return position. They're obviously trying to make sure they have kicker locked down. They got snubbed by Will Lutz earlier this week, who returns to Denver. We'll see how that plays out. But DErnest Johnson is a core special teamer for them. He's also a very good depth running back. Like, you've seen him at times throughout his career take over as the lead back when injuries have struck, especially in Cleveland. He is able to get meaningful reps in a pinch, take meaningful reps for you on offense if need be. Of course, right now he's probably going to head into the season as the Jaguars RB3. You have Travis Etienne, who's clearly your starter. You also have Tank Bigsby, who you drafted in the 3rd round last year, a guy with a lot of talent, had some issues early on for the Jaguars, but started playing better, started playing a little bit more towards the end of the season. Those last couple games, they really started getting him more involved, and I think that he has a bright future ahead of him, despite some early struggles. I know some fans really kind of lost faith in Tank Bigsby. It looked like Doug Peterson may have as well for a while, but this is a guy that has the talent to be at the very least, a very good RB2. I think he has starting NFL talent. Going back to my draft evaluation of Tank Bigsby, I think he has the ability to start in the NFL. We'll see how it plays out there, but DErnest Johnson is back for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Just a nice roster-filling move, right? A glue type of player in the NFL. But still, having a third backup running back who can contribute on special teams, and if there are injuries ahead of him, and even if there aren't injuries ahead of him, very good for the Jaguars. Now, the big question is, will Calvin Ridley return to Duval in 2024? According to all reports out there right now, it's pretty much between the Patriots and the Jaguars. According to Josina Anderson, the Patriots have an offer on the table. They have just left that offer out there for Calvin Ridley, but don't be surprised. You know, we have until 4 p.m. Eastern time until this thing's probably going to start to clear up. Don't be surprised if another team gets added to the mix. That's just kind of my take there. Calvin Ridley's a very talented receiver, and I think a lot of teams know the situation here. The Jaguars, they're not going to sign him before 4 p.m. Eastern time, before the new league year, because if they do, a 2nd-round pick goes to Atlanta instead of a 3rd-round pick. That is the nature of the deal. That is the escalator that they included in the contract. I know a lot of people have talked about, gosh, that's such a stupid escalator. Why would Atlanta ever agree to that? Because the Jaguars were coming with an offer that was a good offer. It's multiple draft picks for a player that they had no intention of retaining, for a player that was coming off the suspension, was coming off nearly 2 years of not playing football. So the Jaguars included that in there. Falcons agreed. It was not a escalator in a trade that was unheard of. We've seen it before with Leonard Williams. You've seen it before with other players. I don't think it's some escalator that's never going to be included in a deal again, because, quite frankly, the Falcons knew what they were doing, and so did the Jaguars. So again, after 4 p.m. Eastern time, after the start of the new league year today, the Jaguars only give up a 3rd-round pick if they sign Calvin Ridley. Before, it's a 2nd-round pick. So I think teams are kind of just slow playing this, seeing how it plays out here. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Jaguars and Patriots aren't the only teams involved towards 4 p.m. Eastern time. It has been an odd free agent cycle for wide receivers. No one really getting a bag yet. You've seen some wide receiver 2 contracts. Obviously, Gabe Davis to Jacksonville, Darnell Mooney from Chicago to Atlanta. But nothing sniffing $20 million, which is kind of what you look at now in that range of wide receiver ones. since the legal tampering period started. Is that due to a loaded 2024 NFL draft class at wide receiver? I'd say definitely that has something to do with it. There's also the fact that the top two free agent receivers aren't without their question marks, right? Calvin Ridley, he's older going into his second contract than most players are. You're also banking on him playing even better in 2024 than he did in 2023 if you're paying him close to or more than $20 million per year. And it's not like there's zero off-field baggage with him. We just mentioned it, right? You had the betting. You had him not playing for 2 years, nearly 2 years. And then you talk about Hollywood Brown, the other top wide receiver in this free agent class. He's small for a wide receiver one. Very small. So every minute, every hour that this thing with Ridley creeps closer to the 4 p.m. Eastern new league year, it gets more likely, in my opinion, that Calvin Ridley remains a Jaguar. Ridley did change his Twitter header to a new pic of him in the Jaguars uniform. So I think everything's kind of leaning towards him playing in Jacksonville. He really wants to stay in Jacksonville. He talked about it at the end of the season. He's talked about it publicly and privately. He wants to play for the Jaguars, but money does matter as well. I think if the Jaguars can stay in the same ballpark as the Patriots, as any other suitors, that they'll land him. I really do. It feels to me like Ridley stays in Jacksonville, but again, a lot can happen over the next several hours. There are teams out there with cap space, with needs at wide receiver, that could jump in and say, hey, we're going to beat that offer, and we're going to beat it. We're going to make you an offer you can't refuse, basically. Little Godfather action there. But I would say without the retention of Calvin Ridley, it would feel like this early wave of free agency certainly has made the Jaguars better. But how much better, right? Gabe Davis, if he's here instead of Ridley as your outside receiver, that's not it. But if you have Gabe Davis and Calvin Ridley as outside receivers with Kirk in the slot and Evan Ingram at tight end, now you're really cooking with fire, right? Obviously, Mitch Morse is a huge upgrade at center. He's not like an elite center, but he's a good center, replacing one of the worst centers in the game, arguably, right? One of the worst starting centers in the game, I should say. And they'll feel that they either replaced every other position that they made moves at with cheaper veterans or upgraded, everywhere else that they made moves, right? But Calvin Ridley, he is the ultimate prize here, in my opinion. The guy that would be the cherry on top for this free agency cycle. I'll leave y'all with this. I know a lot of folks on Twitter have kind of talked about how building your wide receiver room through expensive free agents, not ideal. I agree. I would be drafting wide receivers every year. I just think that in this modern era of the NFL draft, of the NFL, there are good wide receivers in every draft class, and there's a bunch of them. 2024 is no different. Maybe the ultimate example of a loaded wide receiver draft class, 2024. You want some homegrown guys that you drafted. You absolutely did or do. But looking at Trent Baalke's draft history at wide receiver, not good. Very much not good. Maybe staying in your lane and finding proven NFL talent isn't the worst idea if you're Trent Baalke. Again, because you've struggled to draft receivers. You've never hit on a receiver. Maybe Parker Washington is the best receiver you've drafted. Of course, in my opinion, that does speak more to the incompetence of Trent Baalke as a talent evaluator, as a drafter. But perhaps if Trent Baalke is going to be the GM, self-awareness could be a good thing for him in this regard. Could be a good thing for the Jaguars. I hope that they do take swings in the draft at wide receiver, because they should. Every team really should. Again, loaded wide receiver class. But for Trent Baalke, a guy that has never really hit on receivers, maybe it is best for them to just kind of look at this like, hey, we are going to secure the position before the draft. If anybody falls to us in the draft that we feel really good about, we will add them as well. But we're going to make sure we have this receiving core down before the draft, because we don't want to rely on Trent Baalke to draft players that have to play early on at wide receiver. Obviously, again, an indictment on Trent Baalke, but being self-aware, that can help you out as well. Go draft the big boys. Trent Baalke has been much better at that throughout his career, drafting, edge players, defensive linemen, offensive linemen. He's been better at that. than he has at drafting wide receivers. So we'll see how it plays out here. Again, I do expect Calvin Ridley to return to Duval, but a lot of time between now and 4 p.m. Eastern when the new league year starts. We will see how it plays out. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. You can also check out ginjag.com/shop, pick up some new Duval gear. Y'all have a good one.